In the first month of his term, President Donald Trump moved to designate Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. Building on this approach, he has now announced plans to classify certain chapters of the Muslim Brotherhood as terrorist organizations, signaling a strategic escalation in his administration's counter-extremism policy. While this may be framed as a religious or ideological confrontation, the designation appears rooted less in faith and more in concerns over the growing influence of the group's subtle influence within the U.S. institutions. Now, what are the implications of these decisions? As we delve into the details, this and more will be explored in today's Flash News. Good afternoon and welcome. I am Tabitha Alcor. Let's begin. President Donald Trump has initiated steps to designate the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization, reflecting heightened concern over the Islamist group's expanding presence and influence in the United States. This development comes amid warnings from multiple experts and organizations about the Brotherhood's reach into the U.S. institutions and its potential threat to national security. The Muslim Brotherhood, founded in Egypt in the 1920s as an Islamic political movement, quickly expanded across the Muslim world, promoting Islamist governance and social programs while often operating clandestinely. Now, over the decades, it has become one of the Arab world's most influential Islamist movements. The organization's ideology emphasizes gradual social and political change aligned with Sharia law, which distinguishes it from more overtly militant jihadist groups like Al-Qaeda and Hamas. Meanwhile, Carl Schidler did capture it aptly in an exclusive interview with NTD News. Let's take a listen.
Well, if the Trump administration does in fact move forward with designating the Muslim Brotherhood, it will be the biggest blow ever suffered by Islamic terrorism since the global war on terrorism began after the 9/11 attacks. The Muslim Brotherhood is absolutely the font of jihadist terrorism. Muslim Brothers have played a key role in forming every Islamic jihadist terror group that the United States has ever confronted. So this is really getting at the very root of the problem.
We see that in recent months, concerns have grown over the group's activities in the United States. Texas Governor Greg Abbott recently designated the Muslim Brotherhood, along with its affiliate, the Council on American Islamic Relations, as a terrorist organization at the state level, restricting their ability to conduct certain activities, including property acquisitions. Now, the Muslim Brotherhood made a response to the Texas governor's decision regarding this issue. Let's take a listen.
The Muslim Legal Fund of America, the CARE Legal Defense Fund, and Akil and Valentine PLC yesterday announced that they have filed a federal lawsuit against Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Attorney General Ken Paxton to block enforcement of Abbott's unconstitutional and defamatory November 18th proclamation, which falsely declared the Texas chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations a foreign terrorist organization and threatened various civil penalties against the civil rights organization if it continues to serve the people of Texas. With that, I invite several members of the Texas community to speak to demonstrate the point that this isn't about CARE. This isn't about Muslims. This is about all Americans' right to the freedom of speech and the right to political dissent.
Well, this is about all Americans or Muslims when it comes to the freedom of speech. Now, a comprehensive 200-page study by the Institute for the Study of Global Anti-Semitism and Policy, a prominent global research center, details the group's influence in U.S. agencies, educational institutions, and civil society. The report notes that the Brotherhood has assessed key government agencies, including the State Department, Department of Homeland Security, and Department of Justice through career appointment and advisory roles that may affect policy decisions. Now, it is also active in educational institutions and maintains a substantial social media presence, expanding its ideological reach and also shaping public discourse. Financial support from foreign sources such as Qatar underpins its operations, while its strategic goal is to establish Islamic governance under Sharia law. We see that the Brotherhood's gradualist approach allows it to pursue these objectives while avoiding direct confrontation, distinguishing it from militant groups like Al-Qaeda and Hamas. Its GAP emphasizes the need for evidence-based scrutiny of the group's structures and funding, sustained monitoring, and long-term investment in democratic resilience. So overall, the Brotherhood is portrayed as a sophisticated network quietly embedding itself in U.S. institutions to advance its ideological and strategic goals. In response to these concerns, President Donald Trump has directed senior officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, to evaluate whether certain Brotherhood chapters warrant designation as foreign terrorist organizations or specially designated global terrorists. Now, we see that the executive order outlines a process requiring a report within 30 days and subsequent actions within 45 days. This federal-level initiative would formalize the designation, extending beyond the state-level actions already taken in Texas, and also enable the imposition of sanctions on targeted Brotherhood chapters. Now, what are the implications? President Trump has just made a statement. Experts argue that a U.S. designation would mark a significant step in countering the group's influence domestically, sending a clear signal to international allies and adversaries alike. Analysts note that this move could complicate diplomatic relations with countries where the Brotherhood operates openly, including Egypt, Jordan, and Lebanon, but emphasize that the designation targets specific chapters rather than the organization as a whole. As the Muslim Brotherhood's domestic and international footprint continues to draw scrutiny from around the world, the Trump administration's planned designation reflects broader concerns about extremist influence in U.S. institutions and society. With a formal report and subsequent designations expected in the coming weeks, federal authorities are positioning themselves to take decisive action and measures against the organization's alleged networks within the United States. Now, moving over to Taiwan. In Taiwan, Taiwan's Prime Cho Jong-tai has reiterated that the island's future will be determined solely by its 23 million people, pushing back against renewed sovereignty claims from China following a call between China's President Xi Jinping and U.S. President Donald Trump. Now, during the call on Monday, Xi emphasized Beijing's long-standing position that Taiwan's post-World War II return to China forms part of its preferred world order. Taiwan's democratically elected government firmly rejects that interpretation and maintains that the Republic of China, Taiwan's official name, functions as a fully sovereign state. Meanwhile, Chu, speaking outside Parliament, said a return to Chinese rule is not an option for the island's population. He noted Taiwan's system of governance places day-to-day administrative duties under the premier, while defense and foreign affairs fall under the president. Let's take a look.
We must once again emphasize that the Republic of China, Taiwan, is a fully sovereign and independent country. For the 23 million people of our nation, return is not an option. This is very clear. Taiwan belongs to the world. It plays a vital role in regional security, as well as in global technological and economic development. Therefore, maintaining the status quo is a matter of common concern for the international community.
Return is not an option. Meanwhile, Beijing continues to promote its one country, two systems model for Taiwan. The proposal has no support within Taiwan's major political parties and has been previously dismissed by President Lee Ching-te. Tensions in the region have deepened as Japan signals a tougher stance. Prime Minister Senator Kachie recently said a Chinese attack on Taiwan could prompt a Japanese military response during Beijing's criticism. The Prime Minister had a phone call with President Donald Trump, and then she reinstated their collaboration and partnership together as being friends. Let's take a look.
President Trump explained about the recent US-China relations, including his talks with the Chinese leader last night. He also asked about the G20 summit that I attended, to which I responded. Under the current international circumstances, following President Trump's recent visit to Japan, I believe that I was able to confirm the close cooperation between Japan and the United States. President Trump told me that we are very close friends and that I could call him at any time.
However, China regards Taiwan as its most sensitive diplomatic issue. Trump later described US-China relations as strong, but did not indicate whether Taiwan was discussed in the call. Taipei has also accused Beijing of distorting the historical record of World War II. Taiwan argues that China uses wartime documents and narratives to pressure the island and influence regional public opinion. The island's foreign ministry said China's approach reflects an expansionist posture aimed at intimidating neighbors, including Taiwan and Japan. Now, China has not ruled out the use of force in pursuit of unification and continues to increase military activities around Taiwan. On Tuesday, Taiwan's defense ministry reported detecting a balloon originating from China crossing the Taiwan Strait. Now, such sightings typically increase during winter and have previously been described by Taiwan as part of a wider pattern of harassment coming from China. China has dismissed these concerns over the balloon, saying they are used for meteorological research. But is that true and even genuine? Looking at their push for the collaboration with the US, Japan, and then now with Taiwan. Moving over to the ongoing summit. In the EU and AU summit, the 7th annual European Union African Union Summit opened in Angola on Monday under the theme Promoting Peace and Prosperity Through Effective Multilateralism. The two-day meeting marks 25 years of EU-AU partnership and coincides with the 50th anniversary of independence for Angola and several other African nations. The summit is co-chaired by Angolan President João Lourenço and the President of the European Council, Antonio Costa. Also in attendance are the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, representing the EU, and Mahmoud Ali Yusuf, Chair of the African Union Commission. Von der Leyen in the summit made a statement and then she committed their support for African nations. Let's take a look.
And while we connect Africa to global markets, we are also supporting trade within your continent. I think this is the best way for African companies to scale up and prepare for global competition.
The European Union remains Africa's largest trading partner, but relations have become more complex amid the growing influence of Russia, China, and the United States across the continent. Addressing delegates, von der Leyen noted that Africa and Europe face an increasingly confrontational global economic landscape and stressed that closer cooperation between both regions is more important than ever. Now, moving over to these catastrophic development right here in Ethiopia. A long-dormant volcano in northern Ethiopia erupted on Sunday for the first time in nearly 12,000 years, sending ash plumes as high as 14 kilometers into the sky and drifting across the Red Sea toward Yemen and Oman. The Hayli Gubbi volcano, located in the Afar region, spewed ash for several hours, leaving the nearby village of Afdara blanketed in thick dust. Local authorities reported no casualties but warned of significant economic impact for livestock herders whose grazing areas have been covered in ash. Now, according to local officials, several villages are now struggling with limited access to pasture, raising concerns for animal survival. Residents also recounted hearing a powerful blast accompanied by a shock wave as the eruption began. The Afar region, one of the most geological active areas in East Africa, is prone to earthquakes and volcanic activity. The Smithsonian Institution's Global Volcanism Program confirms that Hayli Gubbi has had no known eruptions during the Volcano era, which spans roughly the past 12,000 years. Now, in an update on Monday evening, the Toulouse Volcano Ash Advisory Center reported that the ash cloud had traveled over northern India and was rapidly moving toward China. Now, this is development coming from this natural disaster. I will definitely bring you up to speed with the details as they keep coming in. Until next time, this is where we'll be drawing the curtain on today's Flash News. Remember to stay tuned for Horizon Untold Stories and Undaunted at the top of the hour, 8 p.m.